how to save on produce and meat and wherever your questions take us. It's always kind of fun to see where we end up. I'm glad to answer questions that are on or off topic, but it's always fun to come with a topic. I actually, the whole pandemic COVID thing, I started switching around what our topics are. I kind of have them mapped out through previous years and just what we've done in the past. Realized that we skipped this topic because we were supposed to hit it, I think actually the weekend that everything locked down, and we haven't picked it back up. So we actually haven't specifically talked meat and produce in over a year. So for some of you, this is old, but we've also been doing Q&As for almost 9 years now. So it's kind of hard to not have a topic you haven't hit on. But for some of you, this is a topic that is incredibly helpful. Produce and meat, I don't have a coupon for those. Occasionally, maybe, but not every single week for every single item that you're going to need. Definitely not enough to come home and have, knocked out your meat and your produce and paid nothing for them. You're not going to see that on a TV show, and you're definitely not going to do it in real life. But there are ways to save on them. So that's what I want to hit on. Sometimes it's thinking outside the box. So for our family, and I share this a lot just in general topics when we're talking about something else sometimes, but for us, typically, our meat and our produce do not come from the grocery store. So I will purchase fruit in the grocery store, and occasionally if a meat item is a great price in the grocery store, but not on a regular basis. We purchase in bulk and then we freeze it. So we purchase and we vacuum seal on that. Let's see. So for example, this is chicken breast. It doesn't look like chicken breast. It's just a vacuum sealed package of really 2 butterflied chicken breasts. So 4 individual chicken breasts in one package. Now, we're a family of 7, so you might think about vacuum sealing 2 of them or whatever your family needs, but we've hit the point where if we just did 2, it wouldn't work for all 7 of us. So we buy chicken in bulk from a local grocery supply, from a local really restaurant supply store that anyone can shop at. You may not have that option in your area, but it is an extremely good option to be able to buy meat at a fraction of the price for the grocery store. So for us, boneless, skinless chicken breasts, $1.10 a pound from the U.S. Foods Chef Store. If you don't have a U.S. Foods Chef Store, there are a few other brands out there. Gordon Food Service runs one. So that's the other big one with a number of stores across the Southeast. But just search, Google, restaurant supply store and the name of your town or the name of the biggest town near you and see what you can find. Not all of them are open to the public. So for us, U.S. Foods, you just walk right in. You don't have membership. You just shop like a normal person. You don't have to own a business. Some of them do require that you own a business to be able to shop there. You don't actually have to own a restaurant. You just have to own a business. So you'll need to find out what's available in your area. Now, here's the other part for restaurant supply store. So again, boneless, skinless chicken breast, $1.10 a pound. I'm buying that in a 40-pound box. That's a big box. Now, I have a freezer, so I can vacuum seal this. This is good in a vacuum seal bag for 9 months. You would probably manage to eat 40 pounds of chicken in 9 months. I think you'd be okay. But if you didn't have the space or you really didn't think you needed that much, then split the box with a friend. I mean, there are ways to make this work, guys. The other thing to realize, if you live even upwards of an hour and a half from a store that would let you buy from them, it's still worth making a road trip. So I live in Columbia, South Carolina. If you were really anywhere in South Carolina, you could get to Columbia within an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes. And maybe you just head up every 3 months and you buy all your chicken and all your ground beef and you go home with all of it. You would still significantly save over the grocery store prices because of those bulk prices. So that's where we get most of our meat. And I do not buy it all once every 3 months. I mean, obviously we have one in here in town, but we tend to get 1 meat a month. So we will get chicken, and next month we will get ground beef, and the month after that, I will kind of rotate around what that third option is. But that's how we tend to afford it, so that we're only having to focus on the price of 1 meat for that month's budget. So a 40-pound box of chicken, right about $43 to walk out the door. it's totally doable, and you've got enough chicken for a few months. So that's another option too. So I don't want to leave you hanging on just looking for that. And speaking of chicken, I can't keep holding it though because my hand's going to freeze off. But one option in terms of chicken specifically is folks that might live near a chicken processing plant. And Tyson is a big one, I know, in Northeast Georgia. Anyone that's in the Northeast Georgia area, we've got a chicken processing plant here in Columbia. They will direct sell to you, and you can get some very good prices by going directly to the plant. So if you have a Tyson plant in your area, if you're in the Atlanta area, they're not even that far outside of Atlanta. You're going north above the perimeter for my Atlanta folks, but they are there and they have great direct prices. Buy in bulk too. Bring it home. Don't make that trip every week, but bring it home, get it in the freezer, and it's still a significant savings. Now that one obviously is just going to be chicken. You're not going to find a lot of beef packaging plants that are going to let you do that. But chicken is, one of the easiest meats to save on. So by far, it's worth looking into. A third option for meat are the warehouse clubs, and they will sell to you in the case size. So if you have a Sam's membership or a Costco membership, asking them what the case price is, and a lot of times it is cheaper than the individual package price for meat. So just ask. It doesn't mean that they always have it in stock, but just ask, do you offer this in a case, and what is the case price? You'll be surprised at what that price is for most meats. An example on the warehouse side for Sam's, I guess it was 2 weekends ago, we had a camp out for our American Heritage Girls, basically a form of Girl Scouts. We had a camping trip, and I was in charge of buying all the food. So we went Sam's just to make my life easier, and Sam's sells bacon in a 10-pound box. It's a lot of bacon. A 10-pound box of bacon, though, and it's less than $3 a pound. You're not going to find bacon in the grocery store for less than $3 a pound. Even with a buy one, get one sale, it's still going to be more than $3 a pound. So anytime that we can beat that grocery store sale price, do that. Even if we're heading to the warehouse stores, you can do that. So the easiest thing to do is to have a price point in your head of where the grocery stores usually hit. So you can do that through using the price by price list that's on Southern Savers, using the item search on Southern Savers, typing in bacon, seeing where the current prices for bacon are with the item search, and then kind of knowing, okay, well, this is my ballpark. If this is as cheap as I can get it in a grocery store, then our goal is to beat that in a warehouse store through bulk, through, however we can get it creatively. That's our goal. So hopefully that will help a little bit on meat, and then definitely getting it vacuum sealed and put into your freezer. And Kimberly, asking specifically, that's what we were just talking about, Kimberly. So the U.S. Foods Chef Store, that is where we buy all of our meat, Kimberly. And here in Columbia, I have run into so many people. I'll hold up my chicken again, my hand's thawed. But I've run into so many people who've never been there. And honestly, I would move in if they would let me, because the price of meat is so cheap. I feel like, I just want to stop people in the grocery store. Like, don't buy that here. You need to go over here. But you will be able to get any cut of meat that you want. It's all fresh. None of it's frozen. So you're going to need to come home and get it ready for the freezer. Versus the grocery store, when we buy meat in the grocery store, so much of it has already been frozen and it's been thawed to put into a package. So by the time you bring it home again, you're actually freezing it for the second time. And that's okay, but it's not as wonderful. So that's one of the perks of grabbing bulk fresh and then putting it up yourself, is you're avoiding that. Now you'll see that a lot in seafood. The Chef Store actually, and most restaurant supply stores, sells seafood frozen, but a lot of times the grocery store doesn't. Well, ask. That's your homework, guys. Ask the folks at the Publix seafood counter, at the Kroger seafood counter, hey, was this previously frozen? Yes. Most of the products that they have in that fresh seafood counter in the grocery store was once frozen. They thawed it, because we think that when it's behind a pretty glass wall that it's fancier. And now you're going to take it home and you need to eat it. You don't really need to refreeze it again. So, just to kind of keep that in mind when you're buying grocery store meats, that's kind of how they play. So it's a perk as well of buying in bulk and buying fresh. My husband's chiming in with a question on this one. Are there things to avoid at the restaurant supply stores? And yes, so if you are heading in there, you've never hit one before, and I'm encouraging you to find one. I'm encouraging you to focus on bulk. I wouldn't just head in and start shopping the whole store. I mean, you can. It's all open to you. But you're not going to use so much of what they sell. So they sell, one of my favorite example is soy sauce. They sell it, but it's not in a little tiny bottle. It's in like a 50-gallon drum, basically, of soy sauce. You don't need that. That would be like soy sauce for the rest of your life, and you could will it to your children. Don't go there. So most of the dry goods section is a lot larger than an average person could handle. Like they sell pasta in a 10-pound bag. That's a lot of pasta. Now, if you're doing a spaghetti cook-off for church, go for it. But in general, you're not going to need it. I also avoid the dairy section. Their dairy prices are going prices for dairy, but they will not beat the grocery store sale prices for dairy. So anything dairy. We'll get some produce from time to time. We'll always get our meat there, and we'll get frozen produce and fruit. Those are the big categories to look for in bulk anywhere, really, but those are the big ones to look for. So hopefully that'll help too. And then, oh yeah, exactly, Kimberly. So she says, I've seen people in the Publix counter taking the frozen bags and pouring them. That's exactly where they come from. So for example, shrimp, if you're ever going to buy shrimp at the Publix fresh seafood counter and you say, hey, I need like 6 pounds. Well, that's actually all that they'll have in that little display. And the guy will confess, he'll tell you, if you go to the frozen cabinet that's right there next to them, that it's just those bags right there. And they're just thawing those frozen bags and sticking them into the fresh counter. So wake up moment. We all want what we feel like is fresh produce. But when you see that previously frozen, that's your big warning. That's what they're doing. And it's not a horrible thing. If you're going to eat it this week, it's okay. But if you're not going to eat it this week, get the frozen one. Don't unfreeze it just to refreeze it later. That's just kind of silly. Soapbox moment, I guess, but maybe we all learned something. So off topic here, Sonia is asking, before I went to CVS yesterday, I downloaded the CVS app. Coupon, $10 off 30 for Nexus. You didn't buy any Nexus, but the coupon came off anyway. You know what? That's never happened to me, Sonia, so that's kind of a fun day for you. It's not a normal one. I'm curious if maybe you bought some hair care that it just felt like it was going to attach to. I know my recent hair care coupon for Nexus included Dove and Tresemme and not just Nexus, so maybe, I don't know what else you grabbed, but that is a unique one. So normally CVS coupons are only going to attach to what you purchased. You just had a fun moment. Okay, Holly, great question. So if I'm headed to the U.S. food store, are there organic options when we're talking restaurant supply? Yes and no. So it really depends on what you're looking for. They do not sell organic for every single thing because they really are geared towards restaurant supply. And most of those restaurants that are going whole hog organic, they're also going farm to table. And so if I am a restaurant and I'm focusing on farm to table, I'm not buying my items from a restaurant supply store because that would be against the point of farm to table. So that's, they have to market to who their market is, and their market is just a general restaurant and not the high-end side. So not everything is going to be available organic. Long story short, and you can look at the labels and see what things are. So you'll see all natural, you'll see all the other things, but not a ton organic. And honestly, for us, first off, we're a family of 7. So buying organic, it isn't logical in our book. And it's just not a focus that we have. I'm not going to say it's good or bad. I will say, one brand, I have recently stumbled on this brand's website, but I have to give them a big, kudos to them. Just Bare Chicken. It's actually on sale at Publix starting on Wednesday, and we've got an Ibotta for it, so it comes out to be a pretty great price. So Just Bare Chicken, if you go to their website, this can be your other homework, you can look it up in a bit, but go to their site and look at their About Us, and they, I love it, are really honest in saying, we want to be really honest and open with you and what this means. And so there's a lot in the chicken industry is a really big one. The milk industry is too, where we'll see these labels put on chicken that honestly mean nothing. So that would be an encouragement if you're trying to save on meat, that you actually understand what labels mean. I'm not saying that you don't, by the way, in terms of wanting to shop organic, Holly, but just for the average person, before you get sucked in to thinking that you need to look for these specific labels, make sure you understand what those labels mean. So Just Bare Chicken, for example, if you go to their website, they spell it out, and that hormones have not been added to chicken since 1950 in the United States. So you're talking about a label that is on all these packages of chicken, hormone-free. It hasn't existed in 70 years in the United States. That's more than my lifetime. But we're still labeling our food that way because we feel like we can charge more for it if it has that all-natural, hormone-free. So, just doing some homework before you go digging in and making some decisions as to what will matter to you and what won't is going to help to save some money for me and our family. This is just our take. It's important for me, I'm a registered nurse, that's my background, that you have a protein at your meal, and that may be beans, but it's generally going to be meat for us. And so my goal is to put meat in front of you. We are usually going with the meat that we've bought in bulk. We're not getting I'm not putting lunch meat in front of you every day, but I am putting a protein in front of you, and that's our goal, is that we're going to just eat good for you food. So we're going to eat an apple, we're going to eat a chicken, whatever, but we can't necessarily afford organic. We can't, so we just do what works for us. And that would be my goal for every other family. You do what works for your family. No guilt. We're just going to put good food in front of you. And if all of my kids want to grow up and only eat organic, then by all means, they can do that. But while it has to fit in my wallet, we're just going to focus on what we can. Okay. So a few other things on meat before we switch off. I did mention beans, and I feel like that's something to just, hit on again, guys. We talked about it kind of last week too, is that a huge way to save on meat is nixing the meat from a few meals a week. So if you're going to focus on, adding in more beans into your diet, adding in whatever you can, these are much cheaper than meat in a lot of situations, and can still make for great meals. You can do a meatless chili. You won't really even notice that the meat's not there. And you can do red beans and rice. You can also stretch things where there is meat in a dish, but maybe not as much. And red beans and rice is a great example here. I'll actually make red beans and rice for the whole family. It'll have a ton of leftovers, but it'll only have 1 pound of sausage in it. So 1 pound of sausage, if you look at the servings on it, it doesn't serve 7 people. But once we're adding in all the red beans and we're adding in peppers and onions and rice, it's kind of okay. No one's complaining that they didn't have enough sausage in their bowl. Well, my husband may, but he keeps that complaint very quiet. I don't ever hear that from him. And so in that sense, that meal becomes so much cheaper because it's only got 1 package of sausage, even though we've really made enough to probably feed 10 plus people, versus multiple packages. So cutting down the portions of meat in dishes where that meat isn't a standalone. I'm not giving you a side, a fillet of something, but I'm putting it in a meal, like chili, spaghetti sauce, beef stroganoff. Anytime where the meat's an add-in to an entire recipe, that's a great meal to kind of stretch your meat and not put in the whole serving of meat for the number of people that you are making it for. You've saved some money. You've used a little less meat and maybe a little more of something else. Chili, a little less meat and a little more beans. You can make it work, but you're definitely cutting your budget by stretching your meat into more meals if you can. Let's see. So, Julie, off topic, you did the Scott Bath Tissue Oral-B toothbrushes and Luden Steel at CVS today, and none of your extra care bucks printed. I would say that was a glitch. The manager force printed the Scott and Oral-B. So all of them should have printed, Julie. I'm not sure why none would print. The only thing I can think of is possibly, are you digital and you didn't realize it, and they've all loaded potentially to your CVS app, where you would then find all of your extra care bucks waiting for you right there in the app. I know the Luden's deal is working. I grabbed some, but I grabbed the last bag in my CVS store because that deal's free, and that one went really fast. So it should have printed for you as well. I'm not sure on the others. And Kimberly, have I bought beef steaks at US Foods? So we've bought everything, Kimberly, in their meat section, I feel like. So we have bought their steaks. Their steaks at US Foods tend to come frozen and vacuum sealed individually. We've gone that route, but what we do lately is become our own butcher. So even in US Foods and the restaurant supply stores, all of their fresh meat, you can buy an entire ribeye and bring it home and cut it up. You can buy entire beef tips and cut them up. So we will go in and we will look for those big hunks and then slice them up ourselves. Some of it, depending on the cut that we get, we'll actually turn a few of them into roasts and a few of them into steaks. We've also done the same thing back in March and April when meat became really scarce. Ground beef was one of the things that in our area you couldn't find anywhere. And so we went into the chef store and grabbed one of those big sides again and happened to have a meat grinder. So we just ground up our own ground beef in that situation because there was none around as well. So that's where I would point you, is more to the fresh side of US Foods and slicing it yourself. We've been happier that route versus the steaks that are already vacuum sealed. It's just not quite as cheap versus just making it yourself. Melody, good question. So we're talking about, vacuum sealing. You can can as well. So Melody's asking, where would I buy canning mason jars? Melody, generally where I would grab them is actually like Target, Walmart, and we do see coupons. I don't know that you're going to see any anytime soon because most of those supplies have been sold out for a few months. People went very, Suzy Q homemaker this year, and so we've mason jars, vacuum sealers. They've all just skyrocketed in price, and we haven't seen a lot of sales recently. But that's where I would normally point you. We do see regular sales on canning supplies and regular coupons, like $3 and $4 off coupons. The other part to remember is that once you buy the jars, then I just need to buy new lids. I don't, from here on, we just have a ton of jars, and we don't really, as long as you're saving them, need to always be buying more jars. So hopefully you can grab a stash somewhere. You'll also even be able to find them sometimes at local flea markets, at garage sales, anywhere that someone's willing to get rid of mason jar. If it's a normal mason jar, you can grab new lids even and new rings, but you've got the jar part, which is the most expensive part. And can you scan a Publix? So Karen's got a question. Publix-wise, can I scan a product at Publix and see if I have a digital coupon in the app? Karen, to my knowledge, and this is just me trying it last week in the store, I can't figure out how you would do that. You used to be able to do that, and sometimes, I am guilty of this too. We've had issues with the Android version of the Southern Savers app lately. I did, by the way, Android folks, if you're watching, anyone that's had issues, we did push out a new version of the Android app today, so try it and tell me if it's working. But right now in the Publix app, if you scan items, which you can do from the general search, if I just hit search at the top, it will activate a barcode scanner. But if I do that, it does not ever pull up a coupon. And if I do it from the coupon side, I don't get a barcode scanner. So you're kind of stuck in what I've been able to sit there and mess with in their app. They've undone that part. You can do that part in most other stores. So Kroger, their app will pull up any coupons that apply. Their app will not pull up cashback offers that apply. It's kind of annoying. But Walgreens, CVS, so many other major stores will, which is great, but not Publix anymore. So maybe if somebody knows somebody at Publix, we should really work on that one. I don't know anyone in their tech department, though. Okay, so that was a lot on meat. And kind of a crash bit on meat, but let's switch to produce here. If you've got other meat questions, though, I will gladly answer them. So produce-wise, what I would encourage you to do, and I'm going to try to switch this up so you can see my screen, or see a picture here really quick, is I've always encouraged folks to look at getting into a produce co-op. So switching the way that you buy produce, buying in bulk, being part of a co-op. So this is a picture. It's from really from a few months ago, but it's from our produce co-op. And I just came home and lined it all up on my dining room table to show you what we got that particular week. But looking at this picture, we spend $25 a week to be part of our co-op. Every person that's in it takes a laundry basket, and a big laundry basket to co-op. We line up our laundry baskets, and then we split up cases of produce. And this is multiple cases of produce for the number of people that are in our co-op. We're done in about 30 minutes, and we go home. So for us, this is $25 worth of produce, but this is a lot. This is fresh spinach, mushrooms, potatoes, sweet potatoes, onions, 2 things of Brussels sprouts, bananas, corn, cantaloupe. I'm having to think of it all. Cabbage, green beans, kiwi. I mean, you see it all. That's a lot there. So some weeks there are things that we may not eat. We don't always eat the jalapenos. My husband would love to, but we sometimes just don't get to them in time, or we'll trade them with someone else. We get a little creative too. So mushrooms, I don't actually like mushrooms, but I will come home and turn it into cream and mushroom soup whenever we get them. But the point of a co-op is the money saving side. So for us, I could not buy all of this in the grocery store for $25. What we will do is meal plan from this. So on co-op Saturday mornings, I don't have a meal plan mapped out for the week ahead. I'm going to wait and see what ends up in my basket, come home, and as I put it all away, that's when we're going to go ahead and come up with what our meal plan is going to be, or what our sides are going to be for the week. You know, sometimes I've already mapped out maybe what the meat is going to be, but this is how I'm going to figure out where we're going for the rest of it. But it is huge for us. So I will go into the grocery store and really only need fruit, because you'll notice the only fruit here is some bananas and a cantaloupe and some kiwis. But for 5 kids, that isn't going to hold us. So I will head in, I'll get bananas and grapes, some cheaper fruit items, but I won't end up getting any vegetables in the grocery store for those 2 weeks. And then we have co-op again. So co-op for you, how do you get started? You want to find a co-op in your area. If you live in the Columbia area, this is by far the best one. You want to find a co-op that is just a group of people. That's your cheapest option. Now, there are businesses that do this, and I'm not saying that they're bad, but your cheapest option is finding just a group of people, and that's what we are. So we're just a group of people that meet through a Facebook page, and it's Community Co-op, and I can stick the link into that in a bit. But anyone can join, anyone can be a part of ours. That's what you're looking for in your area. If you do not find something like this in your area, then you could make it. This is really just, 4 or 5 people getting together. That's all it's going to take. And you pool your money, you buy your produce in bulk, and you split it up. So it's that simple. For us, we are more than 4 or 5 people, and you can grow. As you get started, and you do start with 4 or 5 people, and then they bring in a friend, you're going to grow pretty quickly. If you're getting some good deals and people are saving money, you're going to keep growing. So I would encourage you to start there. Try it out, even if you're just splitting up a few things at a time. So maybe I don't go for, we usually come home with, 20 different items. Maybe you just go in for the big stuff, and we split up a case of tomatoes and you get the idea. 4 or 5 things, we split them up, but we've still saved a lot of money on those 4 or 5 things. How can you find a co-op in your area is always the next question that I get. So a few things that you can try in terms of finding a co-op in your area. There is a website that you can try, localharvest.org. So localharvest.org, they keep track of local farmers markets, but there are also some CSA farms. There are co-ops that are listed in Local Harvest too. You put in your zip code and it will find anything in your area that either is a farmer's market or a co-op. Another resource that you can use is your local extension office. So in South Carolina, they're called Clemson Extension offices. It's usually based on whatever your agricultural college is in your area. But finding that local agricultural extension office, it's really kind of an outreach for farmers or for hobby farmers. But for you, they would know farmers that have farmers markets or that will direct sell to you in bulk so that you can look into them. One other thing to look into, and you may not be able to see it on my screen, is a CSA farm. So it stands for Community Supported Agriculture, and Local Harvest keeps a list of those as well, but you can also Google CSA farm, and the city that you live in. So a CSA farm, just to go through that one really quick, it's similar to a co-op, but instead you are buying a share in a farm for a period of time, not long term here. So maybe you go in and they sell them, you buy the share from them, maybe it's $20 a week for 10 weeks, and you get a basket every single week of what is fresh at the farm that week. And a lot of them will have different basket sizes. So if it's just you and your husband, you get a small basket. If it's you and your 5 kids, you get the biggest basket they have. So those are share sizes. And you can look into that and kind of figure that out too. Very similar to a co-op. The difference, you're buying from one farm. So you're buying what that farm grows. So you want to ask them before you sign up, what do you grow? Because if they grow radishes and beets, you're going to get radishes and beets. And you would maybe like to have known that before you signed up. We did this once, so that's a little personal experience there. Not a huge fan of either of those vegetables, but we got a lot of them in the CSA farm that we were a part of. So just great questions as you're getting started. What do you regularly grow? What kind of variety can we expect? Are we looking at 5 or 6 different items? Are we looking at 2 or 3? Those are the key questions to ask. But this is a great way to help your local farm and for you to save some money, because you will, over the grocery store prices, get a very good price on your produce buying from a CSA farm. So community supported agriculture. Might be a completely new concept for some of you guys, but it's interesting and definitely might be surprising to see how many actually are in your area. Hopefully you'll be surprised by that one. Oh, and good. So Allison's chiming in and saying she was part of a CSA this summer and it was awesome. I'm glad. There are a number of great ones. And for us, I should give them credit. The one that we were a part of with a lot of beets and radishes, that was probably almost 10 plus years ago now. So maybe I should try them again, but we're very content with our co-op. So Stacy, great question. Do I recommend purchasing from a local produce stand? Not always. So the real savings on produce is buying in bulk. So another link that I want you guys to go to, and this is just a shortened link that it will take you to a long USDA website, is to go to, and we'll stick this in the comments too, but so.svrs.me, Southern Savers, sosavers.me/market. So when you go to so.svrs.me/market, you will find this lovely dot matrix, black and white, that's what I think of, it's very 1980s, report. Now this is the report of the South Carolina State Farmers Market. I know you may not live in South Carolina, but it is still going to be incredibly helpful to give you an idea of what's in season and what the going price is. This report is updated every morning, usually by 8 o'clock in the morning. Because the federal market, that's really what this is. Columbia, South Carolina has a federal farmers market, and there are only 19 of them in the country. The federal market is usually shuttered and done by 8:30 in the morning. They start at 4:30 in the morning, and they sell all their produce very early to Publix, to local restaurants. Anyone can shop there, but this tells you what was there and what the price was for those items today. You will find that there are reports for other federal markets, and you can go digging, but I will confess the prices are pretty much all the same across the Southeast, and this is the easiest report to read. They actually get more difficult depending on the federal market that you choose. Other markets in the Southeast, Atlanta has one, Miami has one, Missouri has one. That's kind of it in the Southeast, because again, there's only 19 in the country. So how do I read this report? I'm going to make it bigger, just so you can see it. So we've got it super big now, but basically it's telling you what was there. Oh, I kind of broke the screen. I guess I can't make it that big. Let's see. Can I get it all to show up? No. Sorry guys, if you're on your phone, I can't help you. So I'll read it for you. How about that? Basically, we get a column of what was there. This is the volume column. It tells you how much was there. So the VL means very low, not a lot, but there was some, or it wouldn't have made the list. what the size container was, and then a variety in the price. So some examples for you of how this is a decent price and why we might want to head there. The best example to me right now is squash and sweet potatoes. So these are items that are actually in season. Sweet potatoes get cheaper and cheaper as we get closer to Thanksgiving. But right now we could get a 40-pound container, that's a lot of sweet potatoes, for $22. That's the going price. That's what it says right here. Potentially, if you wanted small ones, as low as $18 for the 40-pound box. That's less than 50 cents a pound. Versus heading into the grocery store right now, regular price for sweet potatoes, $1 a pound, if not more. Squash, a half bushel carton. That's what that stands for. You don't necessarily know the poundage on that, but I can tell you it is well over probably 25 pounds of squash. And they're charging for large and medium squash $10, $12. So crazy good prices, where the on sale price in a grocery store is $1.79 a pound. You're going to beat it by far. Now, do you need half a bushel carton of squash? Maybe. You could freeze it. It would last, I guess. But this is an example of why, if I had 3 or 4 friends join in with me, we could handle that. You could split that amongst even, 5, 6 people probably, that one basket, and you would have plenty to come home and cook a meal with. Maybe not to put extra into the freezer, but that's kind of why we do a co-op. We're getting our produce for this week and next week, but not necessarily to stock our freezer. If I want to get enough to stock the freezer, I'm going to head to the farmer's market myself and buy things in bulk. And I did that this summer. My favorite is this guy right here, a half bushel carton of okra. And being able to get a half bushel carton of okra for $20. We did that. We paid that price actually probably a month ago. And that put up almost, I'd say 4.5 gallons of cut and cornmealed fried okra ready to go, which is like, it's not healthy, but it is by far my favorite vegetable in the world. It has always been. So always excited to get that put up during the summer, because now we don't need it all the time, but there are just some meals that make Thanksgiving or make Christmas, and this is one of them. So if I can get okra put up while it's in season and then stretch that out, I'm always happy. But that's where this comes in. So use this report no matter where you live. It's going to help you if you don't live near a federal market. So I know your question was, what do I think about the local little tiny farmers markets? Here's the thing. When you buy from a local little tiny stand, you are either buying from one of 2 people. You're either directly buying from a farmer, which is great, or you are buying from a reseller, and that is more likely the case. You are buying from somebody who drove to the large farmer's market, bought it in bulk, and is now reselling it to you in an individual basket. So you are not going to get the price that you would have gotten at the farmer's market. They got that price, but their goal is to make money here. So when you then buy those tomatoes in that little tiny basket, or you buy 4 or 5 squash, you need to realize that there's a markup. If you do want to buy from that stand, just go in prepared with what you know the going prices are in the grocery store. So again, using the item search on Southern Savers, using the buy price list on Southern Savers, having an idea of what is a good price for squash, what is a good price for tomatoes, so that when I see what this guy's asking, I have that idea. One other thing to keep in mind when you buy from a local farmer's market like that, a little roadside stand, is to realize that they've intentionally taken things out of what you're used to them. So for example, I'm not buying tomatoes by the pound. They don't have them that way. They have 5 or 6 tomatoes in a basket, but they don't have a poundage next to it, or they have 4 or 5 squash set aside. So you actually really have no concept of how much you're getting per pound. Ask them, do you have a scale? Do you have some idea? I just would really like to know how many pounds this comes to. Be that person. Your goal here is, yes, to get fresh produce, but it's to save money. And so I don't want to get focused on the fresh side so much that I put aside, wait a second, what am I even buying? Because we don't buy tomatoes in a little tiny basket in the grocery store. That's not how our brain is used to even processing tomatoes. But at the local roadside stand, that's what's going to happen. So you just need to be in a position where you can kind of figure out, is this a deal? I don't even know. See if they have some kind of scale, or if they can tell you. Maybe they did measure it out by pound, but you'll have some ideas as you go in too. Just don't get caught by that one. And that's kind of, the general rule of thumb. And we just talked about meat, and I should have mentioned it there too. But a big one with meat is to always avoid any meat that is sold by the each. And that kind of comes down to it with fruit too. I mean, there are a couple fruits and veggies that are always sold by the each or by the bunch. But most of the time, our produce and our meat is sold by the pound. So even if I'm looking in a weekly ad for the grocery store, if I see something that is sold by the each, I need to step back and think about that for a second, because it's not necessarily the deal that you think it is. So as I say all of that, I'm pulling up the Publix ad, because Publix is notorious for this, and I did it this week. But nobody ever stops to think about what that price is. So this is the worst offender right here. Publix loves to do this. It's salmon. It is a fresh salmon fillet, $6.99 each. But they're telling you right here that this is a 5.25 ounce piece. No. Do you have any clue how much that would cost? This is an insane price. You're paying $7 for 5.25 ounces. So in terms of the price, to give you an idea per pound, pulling out my calculator, this is equal to buying salmon at $21.30 a pound. That's crazy. Don't ever do that. So I don't care that it's been marinated. You could buy the entire bottle of bourbon that they just marinated it for with that much money. Salmon on sale is like $6.99 for a pound of salmon. $6.99 to maybe $8.99 in Publix. Publix has some of the highest meat prices. Yeah, don't pay $21 a pound because you bought it by the each. So big warning there. Same warning in produce. If they're trying to sell things that are usually never sold by the each, and that's how they're trying to do it, stay away from it. So meat, never by the each, and some produce items. I can't say all. Obviously, if I'm going in and getting a pineapple or cantaloupe, those are sold by the each. They're not usually sold by the pound, but you know what I mean. So if you went in and they were selling apples by the each, you'll see them sell navel oranges by the each. Nope, we'd prefer the pound or the multiple pound bag. That's where the deal is. So same for me. Stay away. Always $21 a pound, guys, really. But nobody thinks about that. Nobody thinks about, first off, how many ounces are there in a pound? And then kind of doing that math. This is I spend a good chunk of my day pulling deals with somebody that is right next to me doing pre-algebra. And so we've been doing ratio problems all day, it feels like, for the last 2 weeks. And for me, these are second nature. It's 20% off. And how much is it now? Like, this is what I do. For her, she's struggling with it. So this is an important one for us to all get, is to be able to figure out what is it that we're actually buying. That's important. Okay. So Kelly and Diana both asking questions about a vacuum sealer. For me, we have Food Saver vacuum sealers, and I would recommend them. We have 2 of them. It's kind of a long story, but we do. And in terms of vacuum sealers, they've both been great. We've probably had both of them for 4 or more years now. They've held up wonderfully. In that recommendation, though, I will warn you that vacuum sealers are not on sale anywhere this year because of just everybody choosing to vacuum seal, everybody being afraid that the grocery stores were going to run out of food earlier this year. They haven't been able to get their stock back, so there are no sales there. I still would say that you should get one, but you're not going to find a crazy good deal. The best deal that you can find if you're looking for a vacuum sealer is probably to head to Bed Bath & Beyond and use a 20% off Bed Bath & Beyond coupon. That's generally always made for a decent price, but right now it's probably the only kind of discount price that you're going to be able to grab on a vacuum sealer. Kohl's does sell them, and you could use a Kohl's coupon there, but honestly, Kohl's has the prices way high, so the coupon doesn't do you much good. Bed Bath & Beyond, the prices are pretty normal, and then you're going to get the 20% off on top of that with their 20% off mailer. If you don't have a Bed Bath & Beyond mailer, signing up for their emails will generate a 20% off that will come to your email. So that's the route that I would head to if you're looking specifically for a Food Saver. For the off brands, which there are some on Amazon, I can't speak to any of them. I don't have any of them. But I will tell you that with bags, we buy off-brand bags. So as I'm looking around, some of these say Food Saver. I grab whatever's on sale, but not all of our bags say Food Saver. So this guy doesn't have any labeling on it whatsoever. But we vacuum seal everything. If it can be vacuum sealed and it's fresh, this is how it goes in the freezer. In terms of vacuum sealing versus not vacuum sealing, a Ziploc bag is only good for 6 weeks, period. If you're putting it in the freezer and your goal is to have it in there longer than 6 weeks, it needs to be in something other than a Ziploc bag. So you need to be vacuum sealing. Even if you go with a cheap handheld, I mean, they make them for some where you kind of hold it over a little hole that's in the bag and you're vacuum sealing it that way, it's still better than nothing. So that's the way to go. Vacuum sealing it removes all of the air so that you get basically no freezer burn whatsoever on items. So these are starting to, get their condensation on the outside. But when you look at that, there's nothing other than chicken in here. And this chicken, I'm trying to think of when we even grabbed chicken. It's probably been in the freezer for, I would guess, at least 3 months now. I can't even remember the last time we grabbed chicken at the chef's store. So yeah, there's nothing. Versus 3 months in a Ziploc bag, you wouldn't even be able to tell what was in there. So don't do that. Definitely vacuum seal if you can. You will be very happy in the end when your food is, still good and lasts and you didn't waste your money. So Jamie Lynn asks, are you able to clean them like when you're sealing bloody items? I wish I could hold mine up for you. But yes, so with a Food Saver, I don't know how the other ones work, but with a Food Saver, when you pop it open, so we have the models that stand up. We don't have the little flat ones. I'm not a huge fan of the cheap little flat ones, but we have the bigger ones that are like, I don't know, yay tall. So you pop their heads back, and they lay flat, and they have little trays that pop out, and that is where anything that they've sucked out, any juice, goes into that little tray. And that tray is dishwasher safe. So you just throw it in the dishwasher, and then when it comes back out, we pop it back into the Food Saver so it's ready to go for the next time. Oh, here we go. My handy dandy husband. So we've had it so long that it has an Operation Christmas Child sticker on it because I'm going to guess we came home from processing shoe boxes and vacuum sealed something one day. But this is ours. This is actually our older unit. And in terms of, let's see if I can hold this and give you a lowdown on how it works here. Doesn't help that my hands are wet from holding chicken. So you pop that open. This is where the roll lives. So you don't buy bags. You can, but they're expensive. You would actually just pull this off. You'd make it as long as you needed it to be. There's a cutter right here. I'm not going to cut anything, but you would slide the cutter across and you would cut the bag and then you would seal one end and stick your food in it and you're good to go. So to back that back up and show you how it's going to work from the bottom. So down below is where you insert everything to seal. And super fast here. Let's see, I guess I gotta hold him back. This is even harder. But that's how he pops open so that I can get all the way to the inside and I can pull out the little tiny tray that would collect things. And that would go straight into the dishwasher. So there's also an upper piece that will pop out and it too. Let's see, come on, buddy. Wow, he's not wanting to the way that I'm holding him. But the upper piece can also pop out and go straight into the dishwasher. So that is how Food Saver is made. Depending on the model that you have, it will either pop out or it will have a drawer that pulls out so that you can get to this nifty little tray. And this, when it's full, so let's say you're doing something super juicy. Sometimes for me, that's actually the juiciest item isn't meat, it's vegetables. Because you've blanched these, and these are coming out of a pot of water, and so they aren't super dry. You want to blanch any vegetable before you put it in a vacuum sealer bag, but because these are somewhat moist, I mean, you're going to try to take all the water off you can, but they're somewhat moist. They're the ones that fill up the tray. And so it'll beep, and it'll say tray full, and so you'll pop it open, and you'll dump out your tray, and you'll put it back in, and you just keep on going. But just to kind of warn you, a lot of folks think it's the meat, but it's the veggies. That they're the ones that get us every single time. Jean, what is the gift card deal at CVS? So this week it is a $10 Bed Bath & Beyond gift card. Thanks for the reminder. You could throw that in too. Go to CVS, get a Bed Bath & Beyond gift card, and then go buy your vacuum sealer. It's also a Zaxby's gift card. So that was an unadvertised deal last week, but it is still running this week. So you can only get one of those. You have to decide Bed Bath & Beyond or Zaxby's, but that is the gift card deal at CVS. And Lynn, do Publix sales only run 1 week? I wanted to get more of the BOGO. Yes. So Publix sales are usually only 1 week long for buy one, get one deals. You want more Chobani. You really want to go before the sale ends. So you want to shop before Tuesday night in some areas or Wednesday night if you live in Florida, because a whole new stash of sales will start. I actually already have the new list up on Southern Savers. If you head over there, you'll see the new ad. It does not have Chobani, but it does have, I'm trying to think, I think it's Dannon this week is buy one, get one, and it's the larger containers of Dannon. So if you were happy with that, I mean, there is a large container yogurt deal. Okay, we've hit a lot so far. Going through on produce, I've mentioned the co-op and the CSA farm. If you can't, let's say, you know what, figuring that part out or finding a local farmer's market feels very, very difficult for you, you can still get great deals in the grocery store, but your big thing for saving on produce in the grocery store is that you need to be incredibly consistent with only buying what is in season. So just because they put it in an ad, or really just because they sell it in a grocery store, does not mean that you need to buy it. And I mentioned this, I think, last week, and I remember someone saying, I want my kids to hear this, because honestly, when it comes to produce in the grocery store, you know, you could go in this week and grab strawberries, but they're $5 a pound right now. No, they're off. Strawberries are not coming home with us until, I don't know, February, March. I will take that back. We splurge and we do buy strawberries even when they're not on sale for Christmas Eve. We make chocolate covered strawberries on Christmas Eve. But, you know, some things we do for the sake of our kids and tradition. But in terms of everything else we grab, if it is not on sale, this isn't the time to grab it. There are some produce items that are not U.S. produce items that are always the same price. So bananas, always the same price. Year round, they're coming from Central America, they're always in season, and grapes tend to also fall in that, so grapes are kind of always the same price, always in season. We'll see some discounts on grapes at certain times of the year, but it's an easy fruit to grab that you just kind of know this is going to be semi-affordable. But your berries, your citrus, your melons, those are the fruit items that you're only going to touch when you see the price is low. Other items in the grocery store, so tomatoes, that's also a summer item, and outside of summer, that price of tomatoes is only going to go up. So thinking about what you're cooking and what you're trying to stay away from is going to help to save some money. I've pulled up the Publix ad again just to get an idea here. In the fall, we do see, we've got avocados right now for less than $1 a piece. They'll actually go even cheaper than that. Avocados tend to also be seasonal, so May the 4th, that whole week, you should just have an avocado every night for dinner. But going through your ad, getting an idea of what is the going price for these items so that you can be able to spot when they are or when they are not on sale is going to be a huge help for you. And then keeping in mind what those seasons are. So again, that market report that I mentioned, that's going to tell you if an item isn't at the farmer's market, it isn't in season. The farmer's market's going to sell all of the in-season items. The out-of-season items are coming from very far away, and usually your grocery store is going to have some sort of supplier that they're getting them from, because they are not getting them at all locally to be able to grab those items. So just to keep that in mind as you start to ponder the deals that are out there, and go with what's in season. So, as we get closer to Thanksgiving, sweet potatoes need to become the potato that you eat, because sweet potatoes are going to be half the price of russet and Idaho potatoes. We're going to get our greens are going to stay a good price for a while, because you can have winter greens, lettuces, and all of those items. You could be growing them right now in your garden and have a winter garden for a number of months with green leafy vegetables that will do great into the winter, and a few other things that will also do great in a winter garden. So I would encourage you on that one too. But in general, what's in season, if you see a great price, still grabbing that in bulk. And then thinking about the grocery store that you're in as well. So I'm pointing out the Publix ad. Publix is actually pretty expensive for meat and for produce. They have great BOGO prices, and they have great store coupons that pair in with manufacturer's coupons. I love them for those deals, but they are not necessarily the store that if I needed a ton of produce or I needed a ton of meat that I would recommend you go running out to. You know what the cheaper stores in your area are, or the stores that you're comfortable buying those items from. I've been burned a few times with Aldi, so that is not the store that I would go running to, but I know a number of folks who are very content with Aldi produce and Aldi meat. They're the cheapest in town. Lidl as well. Anyone that has a Sprouts. I wish that we had a Sprouts in our area, but if you have a Sprouts in your area, you should look at the weekly ads on Southern Savers because we're talking, I think grapes this week are like 97 cents a pound. You should go there. You don't have to buy anything else there, but you should make a regular habit of getting your produce from a Sprouts. So if you have one, this is like your moment where you're in trouble if you haven't been going there, because I would do anything to have one in town and be able to grab some of the prices that we see. I mean, all summer long we saw peaches for like 69 cents a pound and blueberries for 99 cents a pound. It's crazy good prices. So shop there. If you have a Sprouts, please. It just makes me sad. So hopefully you will at least try that if you've never been there before. And then thinking about the other grocery stores in town, the smaller the grocery store, this is just a general rule of thumb. The smaller the grocery store, the better the meat and produce prices are, because they don't have the national connections that the large stores do. So they're not going to run the BOGOs that Publix is. They're not going to have the store coupons that Publix is for those Unilever and P&G products. We're going to even have a P&G gift card deal running in Publix starting in Wednesday's ad. I'm not going to see that in a little tiny IGA. So folks ask me, why can't I cover IGA on Southern Savers? Because they're all different. Every little tiny store has its own little tiny ad. I can't help you there. But the biggest things that you can save on in those stores are meat and produce. And they have some great prices because that's all they have to be able to mark down to get you in the door. That's their loss leaders, to get you in the door to do your shopping. So if anything, that's where you want to try to head. If you're trying to decide which grocery store to get the best prices on, that's where you want to look at those little IGA ads to see what they're running, because it will beat your local Publixes and Kroger's and everything else in the world more often than not. Okay. And I'm God. So Jennifer says, I love Sprouts. You should. I'm so proud of you for going in there. And good, Tara, I've made one change. Tara's going to try it out this week. You should. I want you to take a picture, Tara, and send it to me if you could, though. You could send me some produce too. I wouldn't mind that either. I think the closest Sprouts to us is driving all the way to Greenville, which is like an hour and a half from my house. It's a little far for 97 cent pound grapes. Okay. I think I'm caught up on everybody's questions. And Shelly's sharing right now in her garden. She has cabbage, broccoli, cauliflower, squash, green beans. So you've got a pretty sweet winter garden growing. And I think so many folks feel like as soon as summer is over that they're done, but you shouldn't be. You can still have a significant garden all the way until the first frost, and sometimes even past, depending on what you're growing. So look into it. It is not too late to start a winter garden, even if it feels like it is. Oh, and Wendy Weeks shopping in IGA and loving it because her husband's the IGA market manager. Well, there's their shout out for them. Wendy, you should tell them that we're going to send everyone there to grab their produce that's in that neck of the woods. Well, hopefully this topic helps. We haven't talked about it in a long time, but it is one I know for some of you that we have hit before. Maybe we hit something new for y'all tonight. But in general, for folks that this was the first time you've heard it or the first time you've heard some of these concepts, I have done some posts on how to start a co-op. We've done videos on how to start a co-op. We've also done videos on how to vacuum seal and how to freeze items. So the easiest way to find these, because honestly, Facebook doesn't have a great search. So if you're watching on Facebook, the easiest way to find these is actually to head to our YouTube page. So youtube.com/Southern Savers, and then search our YouTube page for vacuum sealers and for whatever you're searching for. How to save on meat, you'll find a produce co-op video, how to run a produce co-op. If you're looking for like detailed information on that specific thing that we covered, that's the best place to start. We've also done posts on it, so you can search Southern Savers too. For us personally, we've been part of the co-op that we're in for probably the last 6+ years, and hands down, it's the best thing for us in saving money on vegetables. So I would encourage everyone to go that route. If you can't, though, it's always just buying in bulk whenever you can, vacuum sealing it and getting it into the freezer. If the next question, so a lot of folks asked about vacuum sealers, the next question is usually, is there a deal on freezers? This year's also another one of those. That was something else that completely sold out, but we should see some sales for Black Friday. So they are back in stock in most stores, and kind of the demand for them has gone down a lot. So hopefully you will be able to find them in your store, and we will see some sales for Black Friday. So that's what I would hold out for. Also, remember, Black Friday sales are starting super early. I mean, Home Depot's they're going to start theirs on November 8th and then run for 2 whole months. So, we're right there. You're not going to have to wait a super long time, but you do want to wait for a deal because there will be one. So if you're looking for a freezer, that's just what I would encourage you to do, is hold on just a little bit longer. There will be a chance, but having an extra freezer will pay for itself by far with what you can tuck away, and having extra meat and having extra produce that you got at a really great price. And then you're not ever going to be in that I have to buy this point, because being in a I have to buy this point for anything means that you pay top dollar. It means that I run out and I grab it and I don't get to even think about whether or not it was a deal or not. So yes, finding a deal on a freezer, it will happen, and it is definitely a worthwhile purchase. Though you're not allowed to go and tell your husband, I told you that you had to have one. I don't want to be in trouble, but it is a worthwhile purchase. We'll just put it that way. So I'm going to go ahead and hop off there. If you have any questions between now and next Monday, feel free to send me a Facebook message or an email, jenny@southernsavers.com. I will be back on tomorrow at 2 o'clock to go through all the drugstore deals. Tuesday at 2. It's kind of become a routine for me. So we'll go through CVS. There's not a lot for Walgreens this week. It's the end of the month, so we see that in grocery stores too. That last week of the month is usually kind of the more week because they assume everyone's out of money. So Walgreens ad, but CVS actually has a pretty good week. So we're going to go through all those deals tomorrow, and then I hope to be back on Wednesday with all of our deals that we got in the grocery store too. So hopefully you can catch those live. If not, you can catch them after the fact. So thanks for watching tonight. Next week, I already shared this last week, but next week our topic will be saving on healthcare, because next week the healthcare markets will all reopen. So it will be, you may not be ready to think about what your plan is going to be for next year, but you have the ability to think about it. So we're going to talk about how to save, the types of plans to look for, ways to save even out of pocket on some expenses. So it's healthcare night. I'm going to put on my nursing hat, and hopefully we'll be able to save some money there too. So thanks for joining me, guys. Feel free to share this with friends if you feel like it would be helpful for them too. The more, the merrier. And I will talk to you again next week.